let's talk about the liver and pooping.
Okay.
Everyone associates digestive problems with the gut and intestines. But if you have liver issues, like a fatty liver, you're constipated. And if you eat a highly processed fatty diet, you're going to have trouble digesting that fat and then pooping it out. And so what happens is gallbladder issues, liver issues, they're backed up, they have bloating, heartburn, right? And then what happens is they do better by not eating.
Welcome to the Cool Health Podcast, where we unlock groundbreaking research in health and wellness by bringing you the latest in health news and in-depth interviews with experts in their fields. We're here to make health cool again. Well, thanks for coming on, Nurse Doza.
Thanks for having me, Jack. I appreciate it. Round two.
Round two. And we got big topics to talk about today. I've been seeing a lot of posts that you've been sharing on Instagram, sharing on YouTube, and common issues, things like energy, things like brain fog, depression, irritability, and there seems like there's numerous factors that could go into it, but there might be something big that we know about, but let's dive deeper into it some more. So, what are we going to talk about today, Nurse Doza?
I want to talk about the liver today.
Okay. Liver health.
Liver health.
Let's do it.
The reason I want to talk about the liver is because it is probably the underlying issue in most people's diseases and health disorders that they're dealing with on a daily basis. When we spoke in the first episode, we talked about lifestyle. At least I interpret it as a lot of lifestyle. And we talked about, getting up in the morning, having a morning routine, bedtime routine, taking some supplements and so forth. And I wanted to drive home the idea, though, is that if you had a lifestyle based off of supporting your liver as the primary thing in your health, your overall health would improve no matter what you're doing. So, for example, the liver is one of the most incredible organs when it comes to our overall health, but it gets neglected. Every single bit of food, alcohol, processed fast food meal has gone into your liver. In fact, all your supplements are there too. And what happens is it's like a storage unit. And your liver can only take so much, and then you have to basically clean it out. And so you imagine if your liver is like a refrigerator, there's stuff in the back of the refrigerator that's been there for months, maybe years. That could be the McDonald's fast food you had 10 years ago that's still there because you can't break it down, but your body doesn't know what to do with it. So what happens is you store it in the liver, and the liver becomes fatty and it becomes unhealthy. And the reason why I'm passionate about this is because 1 in 4 US adults have a fatty liver. And I can't tell you how many clients I have on a weekly basis that come in with a lab report or an ultrasound of their liver, and their doctors have told them you have a fatty liver. But then they didn't say what to do about it. It's almost like that's just what happens. You get a fatty liver, and then you're unhealthy now. There's nothing you can do about it. And I don't think that's true. I don't buy that. I don't buy the idea that, because you're labeled something now that you have to live with it the rest of your life. I mean, I'm sure, Jack, same thing. You've grown up probably saying this label doesn't define who I am, right?
Understood. Yeah. And what's interesting about, you said, the fatty liver, you're hearing children getting this thing, this illness, ailment, disease that once was only for alcoholics, right?
Yes. The old term was that you had a fatty liver because you had a cirrhotic liver. You drank too much, you're an alcoholic. Nowadays, you have this term called non-alcoholic fatty liver disease. And it is a term that you can say, all right, if a person has eaten fast food and processed food their whole life, if you took a snapshot of their liver, it would look exactly like the liver of an alcoholic who drank for 30 years. And it, like you imagine, you used to only think your liver could turn this way with alcohol, but that's not true. In fact, you could basically kill your liver with too much Tylenol, too much fast food, and too much sodas. I mean, that's incredible, right? And so
Right.
if you are what you eat, everyone in this country has a fatty liver. There's a lot of pre-diabetes going around, and there's a lot of people who are overweight. And so you say, this is a very serious issue. You said kids, right? Childhood obesity is so bad now that this is the first time that this generation of kids are not projected to outlive their parents.
Wow.
And if you say, well, what are we looking at? Well, over time, our lifespans have extended, right? With the addition of new things. But like I said, if our lifespan 10 years ago, 20 years ago was projected to be at 80, 85, now these kids growing up, the Gen Zers and all that, it might be 70. And that's really fascinating with the amount of technology and advancements that we know in science. We're still under the impression that, oh, my health is going to come in the form of a pill,
I see.
or a surgery,
Right.
and I hate to break it to people. There's no surgery for liver disease. And really, there's not a magic pill that you can give that's going to cure your liver disease and completely turn it around.
I see. I really want to get into the importance of the liver. Some people may know for detoxification, but why? What are some other crucial steps onto why does the liver matter?
Beautiful. So the liver is the only organ that, if it's healthy and not, cirrhotic like that of an alcoholic, if the liver is healthy, you could cut it in half and it will completely regenerate. That's the incredibleness of the liver. And no one talks about this. We can beat up our liver so bad to where if you live long enough with a fatty liver, you can outlive diabetes. And that's a really horrible disease. But
Right.
imagine fatty liver disease came 20 years before the diagnosis of diabetes.
Okay.
And you say, okay, how does diabetes and fatty liver disease play a role? Well, think about this. The insulin that you will increase whenever you eat will come from the foods we consume, the alcohol, the drinks, all that. So insulin is a big factor when it comes to our energy and our metabolism. And the insulin that we produce and liver, they work hand in hand. So if the insulin has to work too hard, the insulin is like an Uber driver, stores all the protein and fat and carbs you've ever eaten, and it drives it over to the liver and it drops it off for the liver to absorb it, like basically dropping off your passengers at home.
Hey, Nurse
And so
Doza, really quick, high level, what's insulin again, and why does it matter?
Oh, perfect. So insulin is a hormone that we make in order to help us store all the food that we make or that we consume, I'm sorry, and helps us store food and for nutrients and energy to be used for later. So
Okay.
insulin basically stores energy in our organs. That's what insulin does.
Okay, the Uber driver.
The Uber driver, that's right. So you imagine how many Uber drivers have you seen in Austin lately, right? There's tons, right?
Yeah.
So you have to imagine this is exactly how it looks like. In Austin, we're known for 6th Street, right? 6th Street is where all the bars are at. You have to imagine there's a lot of Uber drivers hanging around on 6th Street late at night, which means there's a lot of people that they need to take home. Well, imagine that downtown 6th Street in Austin is basically like a person who overate at the all-you-can-eat buffet, and they're like, oh my God, you know how many Uber drivers I need after the all you can eat buffet? You're going to need a ton because you have tons of food, lots of calories that you have to basically store. So you don't want to overwork your insulin. And I hate to break it to some people, but you're only born with so much. So if you use all of it up in the future, use it all up early on in life, you're not going to have any when you're older. So it goes back to the liver. You say, okay, well, what can I do to help support my liver and my insulin? Honestly, the best thing you could do is eat real food. I mean, that's you want to say how hard is that to do? It's really hard. It's really hard nowadays to eat non-processed real food that came from nature
That's right.
because it
Absolutely.
is. I mean, if you go with the introduction of, I keep saying Uber Eats, for example, right? The last couple of years, you now have the ability to have any type of meal you could ever imagine in your hands within 30 minutes.
I'm guilty of it.
We're guilty. We're all guilty of it, right? And you say, okay, how many people cook their own meals nowadays? Right?
Yeah.
Okay. And then you say, take it a step further. If you go out to a restaurant, where did the chicken eggs come from? Where did the chicken breast come from? What was that cow eating? Like, so it's a big what if, right? So then I say, okay, I really believe that the best thing we could ever do for a fatty liver is to give it a break and stop eating. Like that's what I'm literally saying. So if you can't find healthy enough food, the next best thing to help with the fatty liver is stop eating. And I have to get to this point now because 5 years ago I would have said, you take this supplement, you change this diet. No. The problem with fatty liver disease is people eat food when they're not even hungry.
Not even hungry.
I mean, and when I say I stop at that, let's think about this. Dinner's going to be tonight.
Yes.
And most people are going to eat dinner because it's dinner time, not because they're hungry. Because if breakfast and lunch happened at its usual times, the person had all the food they ever needed to basically fuel the rest of their day. In fact, at the end of the day, their day's over. So they don't need to eat any more energy. And yet dinner time rolls along. Most people eat dinner because they're sitting with their family or they're sitting with a loved one. They're not hungry at all.
Or they're on
And
their Netflix.
they're on their Netflix, like Netflix and chill, whatever. So it used to be that we would sit there and enjoy this meal that we cooked for, 30 minutes, 60 minutes. And really, I wasn't even there at the family dinners for the food. I was there for the camaraderie. I was there for the community. And so I have this theory about, the liver. I have to imagine if you want to have a healthier liver, you have to go support it in what it's capable of doing. So this goes back to your original question. What's the liver capable of doing? Well, it's not just a storage unit. It regulates all of our hormones. So you imagine you're a guy, you have testosterone, and you imagine you want better testosterone. Well, in order to get better testosterone, I need a better liver because the liver helps regulate testosterone and estrogen in the body. So you
Wow.
imagine
Okay.
if you're a guy and you start developing man boobs because you're overweight, the man boobs are organs, they have tissue in there called adipose tissue that make estrogen. So you imagine a beer belly and man boobs produces inflammatory estrogen in that guy. What does it do to the testosterone? It lowers it. Well, how am I going to get rid of all this inflammatory estrogen from all the man boobs and beer bellies I have? The liver. The liver is going to dump out any excessive inflammatory estrogen production in men and both women. So you imagine, you say, well, this is great. Okay, what else can the liver do? Okay, the liver regulates, besides insulin, besides estrogen and testosterone, it regulates the thyroid. So if you imagine, you say, okay, if I have thyroid issues, maybe a person has had thyroid medication they've had to take. Thyroid medication works better with a healthier liver. One, the medication has to go through there, but two, the liver helps convert higher productions of thyroid hormones and thus makes the medication work better and absorb better. So you imagine, you say, before you increase your dosage of thyroid meds, why don't you support the liver and see if that is the boost that you need?
And
Okay.
what's that thyroid medication doing
So
exactly?
that's a great question. So the thyroid medication is not fixing the problem, first of all, it's a band-aid. If you have thyroid issues, first, the problem didn't start with the thyroid. But what's going on with the thyroid meds is it's trying to increase your metabolism because usually with thyroid issues, metabolism is directly affected. Now, you're saying, okay, now you're losing me. Well, let's pull it back together. So imagine you're a 20 or 30-year-old person and you're sluggish and you're tired all the time. And you say, well, I can't seem to lose weight. All right. How many people does this sound like? First thing I think of is what's your liver look like? Now, if 1 in 4
Interesting.
US adults have a fatty liver, I'm going to guess your liver is not that healthy, or it could withstand to have a little bit more support. So here's what I learned too with thyroid issues. When I was in practice years ago, I would give thyroid medications with the idea that it was supposed to help the thyroid. It would help at first,
Right.
but then they'd come back and say, well, it was working at first, but I didn't change the diet like you told me to. I didn't, go exercise more like you told me to. The medicine worked. It gave me energy. So can I increase my dosage? I started saying, no, I'm not. I'm not going to increase your dosage. I'm going to address the liver. And the patients and the clients always say, why? Why are you addressing my thyroid issues with the liver? Because I say to them, well, the liver thyroids are supported by a healthy liver. And I'm guessing because your processed diet and your weight gain, your liver's not healthy. So we need to take care of that first before we can even think about taking care of your thyroid.
Wow. Usually a lot of people would think, "Oh, I have weight gain. I maybe need to trim some pounds off, this and that." No one's thinking about, "Oh man, how is my liver taking all of this?" And that
Yes.
backing up with all the food and let's get into like what else is affecting our liver? We got food. What's next?
Well, let's talk about fat. All
Okay.
right, because fat is a really important thing in our diet. We
Fat in
have
our
to have
diet. Okay, cool.
fat. Yeah, like so your fats, your proteins, your carbs. These are called your macronutrients, right? They're essential. They are the way that we get energy, right? Sunlight gives us energy, water gives us energy, hugs give us energy, being around people, right? Well, food is a great source of energy. And when you think about it, the body is just a car, okay? And if you go to the gas station to fill up your car, you have three choices at the gas pump, right? You have proteins, you have fats, and you have carbohydrates. All right. So think of carbohydrates as the unleaded, inferior, worst form of gasoline you could put in your body, right? And think of fat as the high octane premium gasoline that you could put in your car to make your car and your body run the best it could throughout the day. Now, that fat, that high octane fat, some people think of it as avocados. Some people think of it as salmon, chicken eggs, right? Some people even consider it to be beef. Now, what's fascinating about it is everyone handles their fat differently. But what people are surprised to know is that all fat eventually turns into cholesterol, right? Well, guess where cholesterol gets produced? The liver. So you've heard of people saying, I have bad cholesterol. My doctor said I have bad cholesterol. They said it's genetic. And I'm going to say, well, did you know that the liver stores cholesterol? And if you have an unhealthy liver, maybe you have unhealthy cholesterol. Have you ever tried supporting the liver to support healthy cholesterol? And
Interesting.
people were blown away. They're like, no, but that makes sense.
Right. And
Okay.
cholesterol also supports our hormones, our testosterone and our estrogen, correct?
I'm glad you said that, Jack. So let's take estrogen and testosterone, for example. LDL cholesterol, which is the main quote unquote bad cholesterol that we measure every year in our labs, LDL directly converts into estrogen and cortisol in the body, regardless of whether you're a female or you're a male. So you imagine if I have a person that has high cholesterol, let's say that's a female, a woman, and they have high cholesterol. If I put them on a statin, a cholesterol lowering medication that lowers LDL production, what does that do to their conversion to estrogen and cortisol production? Are they going to be able to make the right kind of estrogen? Are they going to be able to make the right kind of cortisol? Because I'm lowering their cholesterol production. And I think, yes, you will be affected by that. So if I say, okay, most people need to choose a healthier fat, that's the issue.
Okay.
That we need fat, which just people years ago, they said low fat is the way to go,
Yeah.
right? We heard this great low fat diet. And then years ago is no, it's actually high fat diet, right? But the right kind of fat. And so years ago, we were lied to and told that butter and chicken eggs were bad for our heart. They were going to give us bad cholesterol and it was going to cause stroke. That was
Some people still
completely
think
false.
that, right?
Some people still think that because that's marketing. However, remember marketing when cow milk was marketed to us and said, "Got milk? Milk does the body good."
Oh yeah.
And they had
Calcium.
celebrities and athletes, calcium, right? Cow milk is one of the worst things you could ever put in the body. And raw pasteurized is probably the best kind, but I mean, it's illegal in some places. You can't even get it. So you imagine you say, okay, let's go back to the beef. Let's go back to the chicken. If I'm eating fat, especially animal protein, I go so far as to say, well, what kind of food was the animal eating that I'm eating from? If that chicken egg came from a Tyson's chicken and a chicken that never saw the light of day, that's been cooped up indoors, getting stuck with antibiotics and growth factors the whole day, and I decide to consume that inflammatory egg laced with a bunch of hormones, imagine my liver has to digest this.
Yeah.
Now, here's where the weight loss comes into play. Have you ever checked in with yourself after you've eaten a meal and found yourself to be bloated?
Oh yeah. Definitely.
Okay. Do you know the food or the culprit of the bloating?
Oh man. It's usually not after a nice salad. It's always going to be after pizza night or it's going to be after God knows what,
Something.
cultural Thai cuisine mix. Who knows? But
Right.
do you know what I was gonna say before this? What's blowing my mind is that so many people believe they're healthy by buying the steak at the grocery store or buying the chicken wrapped in plastic, and little do they know that that cow and that chicken is getting beat up on the farm, and
Yep.
whatever is getting put into them, it's gonna go right into you. And that's the saddest thing. It's like we gotta be so careful nowadays about what we're
And
putting into our bodies.
we do. And I understand that there's a concern for cost when it comes to going out of your way to eat healthier. Um, Regardless of whether or not, if a banana came from nature, it's still a banana, right? Even if it's a GMO banana, because most GMO bananas are everywhere. And corn, very GMO. But see, there's no nutrients in corn. There's some nutrients in banana. right? There's healthier sugar, there's healthier fiber, but there's nothing in corn, right? And I say, okay, I choose to opt out of the corn. And if there is a banana on my plate, I might eat a bite of it or two. But, I'm definitely going to say if there's not food available, I will choose to abstain and not even eat because I've heard people go keto, right? Let's pick on the keto diet real quick.
Mm,
Keto diet was designed to be a high fat, low carb diet for the idea that it helped people control their insulin and help them control their blood sugar.
right.
If you gain weight, most likely it's because you can't control your blood sugar and your insulin. And by default, inflammation came about in the body and it looked like weight gain. So, if that's the case, the reason why people continuously can't lose weight is because they continuously spike their blood sugar and insulin with processed foods, eating when they're not hungry. So, if I say you're keto, right, that meant you intermittent fast and you break your fast. And a lot of people say, I break it with cheese because it's keto, right? It's fat. And I'm like, hold on a second. Cow milk is very, very processed. And I don't know where that dairy came from. And it is fat, yes. However, how many people have gallbladder issues and liver issues and pain eating dairy right during dinner time, during the meal, right after the meal? So that's why I asked you, how do you feel after you consume a meal? Because most people never think about it.
You know what
Okay.
I was gonna say? I was gonna say, what if we were to say we got the cleanest dairy on the map? This is like cows from the mountain. They were eating grass and getting massages every day. What about that raw and unpasteurized dairy? Because I enjoy some, I really do.
Yep.
But
Yep. Yep.
if this is a long term thing that's gonna beat up my liver, I'm gonna have to question it, right?
Beautiful. Okay. From a scientific standpoint, mammals usually need to consume milk up to about 3 times of their birth weight. So for humans, that's 12 months or a year of age. Around the same time, you tell a woman that's when you want to continue to breastfeed till to at least 12 months. In science, it is shown that all the milk from breast milk given to a human is supposedly be all the milk that they'll ever need for the rest of their life. All the immune globulins, their
Right.
immunity is in that milk. And then after that, humans don't need to consume that. So when it goes back to the cheese and you say, well, it's raw milk. Okay, here's why raw milk would probably be beneficial. That cow, the goat, the sheep, whatever you're getting it from, let's say it was from an Amish farm, right? And you
Go Amish.
say, I know, yeah, you're thinking that's healthy cheese, I bet, because that animal was healthy, it wasn't stressed, it ate really good food, and then guess what? The soil was good and it was treated nicely. Yes, I'm going to try to eat that. However, I still have to process that.
Okay.
Now, raw milk can be easier to process or it could be hard to process. But whenever you consume food from your local farms, you consume all the bacteria and viruses and pathogens and all the bugs that were living in that soil. This is a good thing. This is a very good thing. You want to consume the bugs from the local dirt, your local beef. You want to consume that because guess what? Your digestive tract has something called a microbiome.
Oh
It's
shit.
probiotics.
Hold on,
Okay.
hold on. We just beat up the germ theory. Let's go.
Yes. So you imagine you say, okay, I have bacteria and viruses inside of my digestive tract right now, good ones. And when I eat processed foods, that eliminates them. If I eat local farm to table foods, that replenishes them. So you have to imagine, you say, okay, this cow milk that I'm eating, is it raw, pasteurized? It's probably easier on the liver. It's probably great for the digestive tract. You're not eating it for the taste as so much the health benefits.
Right. Right.
Right. But like I said, if you're going to go out of your way to find raw milk, great, but it's not at the store. There's no way you're going to find it at the store. So then I say, okay, I got to go out of my way to either eliminate it from my diet or really pay high dollar to get it. So I say, okay, let's go back to the beef. And you brought up a good point. So carnivore diet has gotten a lot of press lately for helping people with digestive issues. Let me give you a prime example. Someone that has an autoimmune disorder, has inflammatory responses, can do well on a carnivore diet because it's only one ingredient they're digesting. And I think that's the issue that most people miss. If I consume raw milk, it's one ingredient. If I consume ground beef, it's one ingredient. If I consume chicken eggs, it's one ingredient. However, if I mix the chicken eggs, the ground beef, and maybe even the milk inside a tortilla, and I sprinkle in some salsa and like you're like, okay, that's now I see where you're going. That's way too much. That's too many ingredients. My body can handle one or two things at a time. But if I eat something that has 30 ingredients in it, I don't even care if one of them was organic. My body's still saying, hey, you ate raw cheese, but man, you ate some gluten and you ate some corn with that. Okay. And, you're not really helping us out here. So you say, okay, what do you do then? You say, okay, the liver needs food as well as everyone else does. And as far as every other organ does. The liver loves fat, though. The liver prefers fat. The brain prefers sugar, but the brain will run off of fat. Well, if you heard of ketones, where do they come from? The liver. So when your brain needs energy, you eat it and you basically provide your brain with energy. You pull whatever energy you stored in the liver and it goes to the brain and it fuels it. So if you have a bunch of sugar in your liver, you're going to feed your brain a bunch of sugar. If you have a bunch of healthy avocado fat and chicken egg yolk fat, it's going to feed your liver and feed your brain. Now, fish fat like chicken eggs are omega-3s. Beef is omega-6. And so are nuts. Nuts are omega-6s. Go look up all the research articles. Omega-6 is very inflammatory to the body. And someone that only eats beef on a carnivore diet is literally causing inflammation directly to their liver and their brain because the liver and the brain really prefer omega-3 fatty acids, not omega-6s.
Wow, interesting. I mean, the carnivore diet, it's like you said, can be therapeutic, but there's a lot of people just, not learning anything and then immediately going on it, going, I feel great. I remember when I did it, man. I'm from, an ethnic background, Mediterranean. So I go just to know that. I go on this diet and man, I did it for about literally 2 weeks and my bowel movements, man, I was like just straight horrible. I was in the bathroom just like the nastiest stuff was coming out and it did not seem normal. And my stomach
Right,
did not feel normal. And that
right.
whole like, oh, I'm so cleansed, I feel great really wasn't happening, and I was wondering when it would. But do you know what's
Hmm.
funny? Second, I got back onto the diet that consisted of olive oil, good fiber, good vegetables, meat and fish, almost like a do I call it?
Yep.
Don't steal this. Meat loving Mediterranean. So we could switch it up. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
MLM.
yeah, yeah. I like that.
That's my diet right now, and I've never, I've never pooped better. I've never felt better. My brain health. So yeah, man, it's interesting when you think of a fad or two, but then you go down to what the body really needs and the brain really needs.
And I want to interject here too. So you mentioned something really interesting that no one really talks about: pooping.
Yeah.
So let's talk about the liver and pooping.
Okay.
Everyone associates digestive problems with the gut and intestines. But if you have liver issues, like a fatty liver, you're constipated. And if you eat a highly processed fatty diet, you're going to have trouble digesting that fat and then pooping it out. And so what happens is gallbladder issues, liver issues, they're backed up, they have bloating, heartburn, right? And then what happens is they do better by not eating. So the keto diet and the paleo diet, even the carnivore diet, the best part of the diet might not just be the less inflammatory foods in the diet. It might be the fact that they're eating less. Because, like I said, I am under the theory that the body does better when we're fasted.
It's a
Okay,
it's a strong theory.
it is a strong theory. So there's fasted versus fed. Okay, so let's look at the digestive tract. Your digestive tract starts in your mouth and it ends in your anus, right? Where and what happens, it's a one-way track. It's always moving and it's always coming from the mouth to the anus in a one-way direction. It's not supposed to go the other way, right? So when you eat, you slow down that one-way track because you have to break it down and metabolize it and then digest it, right? So that's why I'm saying the carnivore diet's great because it's one or two ingredients, but so is an elimination diet. It could be one or two ingredients. So it could be a paleo diet. I mean, I eat avocados straight up by themselves, with maybe a little bit of black pepper, if that, one or two ingredients, and then I see if I can poop later. I see if I'm bloated later, because that's a sign that I'm passing and metabolizing correctly. I've met countless of people that do high meat that are constipated because there's lack of fiber from the vegetables, but I don't eat veggies a lot. I just don't. I'm not going to eat it, right? Because they're not that great. I don't like the taste of them, right? So I'm saying I'd rather have chicken eggs. I'd rather have avocado. But here's how I measure my health. If my liver is healthy, I can metabolize and digest any foods I put in my body, regardless of whether it's avocado and just eggs. And if I'm pooping because of it, I know things are working. The one-way track is working. So it brings up back to the liver. If you have a fatty liver, you have irritable bowel syndrome, just almost like connected. And they're years in the making. So the second you ever have constipation, heartburn, indigestion, I think, what's going on with my liver? What's going on with my intestines?
Understood. Okay,
Yep.
let's like recap what we know just now. We're not ending soon, but
Yeah.
we are starting to learn this liver is really controlling a whole bunch of stuff.
Yep.
And the ways that we're damaging our liver is far more than alcohol. It's the sugar, it's the certain
Yep.
fats, it's it's the stress and the bad trans fatty acids. Man, where should we go from here is the real question.
I ask people what they usually want me to help them with. And usually it comes down to weight loss.
Okay.
Okay. So if you were to say, all right, what is your expertise? What do you like to work with? What kind of clients you like to take on? Right. I like to work with people who care. That's it, who want to try.
Yeah,
I want health seekers. I
definitely.
want people who say, I don't feel good. I want to feel better. Now, to get people to say that, it would be, I'd be naive, if I would think everyone's going to come and just say, yeah, I don't feel good and tell me exactly what's going on. Most people come in, they say, I think it's my testosterone. I think it's my estrogen. I can't lose this last 15 pounds. And I've worked out harder. And, I don't understand. I've joined a gym. I'm doing cold plunges. I'm doing this. And I look back at some of the most simplest things that you can't outrun. I say, okay, who's supporting you on your weight loss journey? How much sleep are you getting? What are your stress levels at right now? And what are you eating? Like that's the basic kind of deal. Cause I don't care about exercise really, because I want you to move. We know that if you don't move, you die. I mean, that's what it comes down to, right? But movement for some people could be standing all day, walking around. They're like, I don't need to move. I need to sit down. I'm like, nope, sitting's the new smoking. If you're behind a desk all day indoors, you're literally slowly accelerating the death button. So I imagine, okay, we need sunlight. We're vitamin D deficient. We're sunlight deficient. We're hug deficient. We're sleep deficient. We're nutrient deficient. So brings us back to the liver. Imagine if the supplement that you really needed to take was organ meat, liver, organ meat. I have seen lab work that shows that people who take liver organ meat get all their nutrients from that supplement. Why? Because the liver stores all the nutrients that we possibly need in order to function. And for people with a processed diet who have a fatty liver, imagine there's no nutrients that are helpful in the liver. It's just full of processed sugars, fats, alcohols, and medications.
Okay.
Okay. So then I say, okay, let's say that Jack is a very young guy who wants to live a very healthy life and wants to get the most out of life. And the cool podcast is the podcast not only to help you get over your fatty liver, but also help you enjoy the most out of life, right? That's what we're after.
That's exactly right.
Okay. I'm going to say, no matter what, support your liver. And you're going to say, even if it's, healthy? I said, yes, because here's the other thing that the liver does. The liver makes things called antioxidants. Okay.
Really? I didn't know that.
Yes. Now, we've heard of the term inflammation,
Mhm.
right? And you mentioned earlier detoxification. If someone has inflammation and they have a lot of it, they're going to eventually have a disease. Fill in the blank, call it diabetes, dementia, whatever you want, right? So then I say, well, I have to get rid of the stress or I have to get rid of the inflammation.
Yeah.
Well, let's be honest. You and I are not going to get rid of stress. There's no possible way to get rid of stress. In fact, we thrive off of stressful situations, right?
Uh-huh.
So then I say, I got to respond better to that stress. And if I don't respond well to stress, I have inflammation in my body. Well, guess what gets rid of inflammation in the body? Two things:
What is it?
sleep,
Okay.
sleep, and the liver.
Interesting.
So if your liver's fatty, you cannot make things like antioxidants that directly lower inflammation in the body.
Mhm.
If a fatty liver is around, you're not making antioxidants to reduce inflammation. Think about what this does for your autoimmune disorder, your leaky gut, your dementia risk. Okay, so let's get into the liver brain connection. The antioxidants that the liver makes, the two ones that I love to talk about are called glutathione and N-acetylcysteine. Now, you can find these as supplements over the counter. We sell them. We give them in IVs. Because I knew that everyone had a fatty liver years ago when I became a nurse practitioner, I said, I'm going to give vitamin IVs full of N-acetylcysteine and glutathione to help people's liver because I know that's going to help their overall health. Well, guess what? It did. And it lowered inflammation. It helped with autoimmune disorders. It helped with leaky gut. It helped with cognition.
The glutathione.
And I said, yeah, yeah. And so I said, why would supporting the liver help with the brain? I go do some research. Glutathione, the master antioxidant that the liver produces, the master antioxidant that we need in order to reduce inflammation throughout the body. Found out the liver makes a lot of glutathione, a lot, in fact, more than any other organ in the body. And if we have a fatty liver, we don't make enough glutathione to reduce inflammation in the body, leaving us more susceptible to disease. But guess what? The brain also makes glutathione and it makes its own glutathione. The liver's glutathione doesn't go up to the brain. The liver's glutathione goes to everywhere else in the body. The brain's glutathione only stays in the brain to clean out the brain.
Right.
So
Okay.
you imagine if you go look up all the studies, dementia risk, cognition, go look up of how many of them have N-acetylcysteine and glutathione as clinical trials being given to help reduce inflammation and cognitive decline. And initially, like I said, if I give you NAC or glutathione, I'm supporting your liver, I'm supporting antioxidant production, but I am supporting your brain and the reduction of inflammation throughout the body.
Wow. And you know what's even more interesting when I was looking into the research of people who have dementia or Alzheimer's, researchers would look into the cells and they would realize, man, a lot of these cells are all of it, frankly, is insulin resistant. And
Yes.
and how do you get insulin resistance from the sugar, which impairs your liver,
Yep.
and it's this inflammation cascade. And do you know what's funny? I was looking into this widespread inflammation and antioxidants. Let's say we have a ton of inflammation, and then we give ourselves antioxidants. That might not solely fix the problem. Some of it might be tied to metabolic dysfunction, just like that insulin resistance, just like that too much sugar. So,
Yep.
man, this liver does a whole bunch of freaking stuff. And
Yep.
now we're finding solutions. We need to start avoiding this process BS. We need to avoid these bad fats, these trans fatty acids,
Yep.
the omega 6s, which, man, carnivore people are going to hate this, but, there's so much health stuff now that needs to be revealed. It
Yep.
can't all just be, oh, this is good, Instagram. We got to start revealing it more. So I love this. The supplements in the nutraceuticals, let's get more into that. And
Sure.
yeah, let's talk more about this N-acetylcysteine. And oh, I have a good question. I heard, this is in the grapevines, but some people say glutathione might have a negative feedback loop. You might
Ah,
you might not be able to absorb it if you're taking it per se. How about but N-acetylcysteine you can turn into glutathione.
correct. That is a great point. So I do see where they're coming from that. So glutathione, N-acetylcysteine is the precursor to glutathione. Glutathione can be very hard to absorb because it is a bigger molecule. It's a very thick molecule. So when you take it orally, it's
Right.
very hard to break down.
Okay.
So IV is the preferred way to do it because you bypass the digestive tract, right? Well, there are some liposomal forms of glutathione that people can take. I highly advise people to take that as needed when they're sick or as the quick run to whenever they're feeling run down. I don't give glutathione all the time to people because I want them to make it on their own. I
I see.
don't necessarily agree that there's going to be a negative feedback loop. I think what happens is why can't that person make glutathione on their own? And then I go to that idea of saying, well, let's go support their own production of glutathione. And
Oh.
that's what we really should be doing. Because, for example, N-acetylcysteine will turn into glutathione with the help of several different ingredients. It's not just NAC converts over. You need NAC plus vitamin B6. You need NAC plus vitamin B6 plus copper. You need NAC plus vitamin B6 plus your genetics to be operating. You need NAC, vitamin B6, copper, SAMe, and you need to be in a
Sammy.
parasympathetic lifestyle. Yeah. So you imagine there's a recipe. And so what we have found is we can check the liver, and we can check the liver in the labs, and we can see if there's inflammation in the liver, and we can also see if there's a deficiency of glutathione being produced in that person right then and there. So it doesn't take a genius to realize low glutathione production, inflamed liver. What do we need to do? We need to get this liver not to be inflamed by making its own glutathione and giving yourself glutathione over and over again. It's like basically giving yourself a pain pill, right? Like, yes, you can take it over and over again. It's great, but then it's like, well, why am I still in pain? Why am I still deficient in glutathione
We're just
production? Is it
patching it
the
up.
liver? Yeah, you're right. So then I say, okay, it's genetic. Now, imagine if I told you, yeah, bad cholesterol could be genetic the same way poor glutathione production could be genetic. And you
Right.
say, okay, like what? The liver has genes that help you make glutathione, and sometimes those genes are off. They could genetically be off. You can test for these genes. Even the environment can alter your genes and make these genes not perform like they could. It's called epigenetics. So you imagine if I go and I work backwards, go look up dementia, go look up Alzheimer's. The reason why they can't figure out Alzheimer's is because there's not one magic pill. I can't just give you a bunch of NAC and glutathione and say, oh my gosh, the dementia went away. Type 3 diabetes is Alzheimer's nowadays, right? Insulin resistance of the brain can be vascular dementia, AKA Alzheimer's.
Wow.
If vascular dementia is occurring in the brain, it has happening in the heart, it's happening in the liver, it's happening everywhere. But you imagine if they have insulin resistance of the brain, they have a fatty liver, they have malnutrition. Maybe I could make the case that dementia is omega-3 deficiency. So I'm thinking like, oh my gosh, the reason why they can't fix the dementia is because the person has low omega-3s, low B vitamins, they're insulin resistant, their liver sucks, their digestion sucks, they have no sleep. No wonder the keto diet didn't fix all of that. No wonder just eating plant-based didn't fix all that. I'm like, yes, you need a liver detox supplement like N-acetylcysteine or glutathione, but it
Wow.
goes bigger than that because people say, okay, so I just got to take this pill. No, that's not it. Imagine people say, well, I do a liver cleanse, I do a juice cleanse, I do an all. That's not N-acetylcysteine. Taking olive oil is not going to give you more N-acetylcysteine. You have to take more N-acetylcysteine or somehow eat it in your diet. And then when it comes to the vitamin B6 and vitamin B9, we store B vitamins in our liver. In fact, we store half of our vitamin B9 in our liver. And I imagine this, most people are malnourished and their B vitamins are tanked. Most people are deficient in B9, including myself, because I don't eat veggies. So guess what? What does that do to my liver production and the ability to make glutathione? I found out I genetically don't make enough glutathione, and I can see it in my labs. And when I started supplementing with the right vitamins, my glutathione production started going up. And guess
Interesting.
what? I have all the risk factors, pre-diabetic. My parents were, cancer survivor, triple bypass survivor. I had gout at one point. I have some kind of skin disorder at one point. I have several autoimmune disorders.
Wow.
Okay. And the reason I don't have that pain anymore is because I found out I genetically have a malfunctioning liver. And if I love this life and I want to prevent heart disease, if I want to prevent dementia, how do I target that? I have to get better sleep and fix my liver.
Wow. And for people, they're like, holy shit, I'm starting to get it now. This liver really, like, we got to start taking care of our liver. If they go to their doctor and ask for a lab, what are those markers or those, signs? Let's just say markers. What are those markers they should look for? Is it the HSCRP? Is it IGF? What are they looking for?
Perfect. I'd go with the first one, the HSCRP.
Okay.
And now that you've thrown that out there, I'm going to elaborate on it real quick. So in lab work, there are maybe 6 to 10 different labs that will tell you whether or not you have a fatty inflamed liver. It's not just one test. So when most practitioners say, well, they checked my liver and they said it was fine, first of all, they checked probably the wrong test. And second, you know how many people I've been told we're told they have a fatty liver and the doctor didn't even say anything. So I'm like, they're not even caring at this point. So you got to do something about it. So you go to your doctor's office, you go to practitioner's office, you say, I need my HSCRP ordered.
Okay.
Okay. And if it's above 1, because it's a very low number, if it's above 1, you have a fatty liver. You have an inflamed liver. If you have a test called homocysteine, okay, which while I was talking about dementia, that marker is elevated in dementia. Long history of Alzheimer's and elevated homocysteine. And guess what? You know what lowers homocysteine?
Hmm.
The liver. It's a liver enzyme. HSCRP is a liver enzyme. So what happens is the liver kicks out these enzymes like HSCRP or homocysteine based off the stress and the inflammation in the body. If homocysteine's kicked out, there's inflammation circulating in the arteries and the liver. And if there's HSCRP kicked out, there's inflammation in the brain, the heart, and it's systemic. So you imagine, you say, well, that's not what my doctor said. I'm like, yeah, guess what? Sometimes they don't order those tests or they don't know how to interpret it. And I can't tell you how many times people have shown me their HSCRPs and homocysteine. They're like, well, I don't know. The doctor didn't say anything. I'm like, did you know you're elevating your stroke risk right now and your dementia risk because those are elevated? And they're going to say, no one told me this. And
It's
I'm going to say,
frustrating.
and I say, you know how to lower the homocysteine and HSCRP? Liver detox supplements and lifestyle. It happens every time, and it happens repeatedly enough to where I tell people, I'm like, your liver can regenerate if you give it enough support. What kind of support? The recipe. It's not olive oil. It's not going gluten-free. It's not eating less. It's taking B vitamins and N-acetylcysteine to get your glutathione at its highest level, and then make sure that your liver is functioning like it should. And if you take a supplement, regardless of whether you decide to or not, it's not vitamin D. You can't go look up N-acetylcysteine. It is an essential medication listed by both the FDA and the World Health Organization.
Yeah, and it's incredibly grateful that there's practitioners like you that can say, "Hey, this liver controls everything, and we got to check the markers." That's not just one and say, some doctors say, "Oh, you're good, man. Your liver is good, right?" But now let's start to cleanse this, and it's very fortunate you have MSW, the creation, MSW Lounge, and all your amazing supplements. I want to talk about Liver Love, but before, we started with the Bliss supplement, and I've been taking Bliss, and man, on like almost a daily basis, and that thing, it just changed the way I felt throughout the day, and you were saying the same with the liver,
Genius.
and
Yeah.
you know what's funny? From a personal standpoint, it seems like I do all healthy stuff, right? But most days, man, I really do feel exhausted, like even at 11 a.m. And I think it's starting to become because of a liver thing. So I want to learn
Uh,
more about this and what I can do. So what's up with Liver Love and how can we
Perfect.
help it?
So Liver Love is our go-to supplement. This is not a plug as so much a story. So years ago when we were doing labs, especially here at MSW Lounge, we're known for doing labs. Like I can do your labs, I can read them, go over an hour with them, whatever. And we came down to like saying, okay, well, you need to take something. You need to take something for your liver. And people would go and search on Amazon. They go all over the place. They wouldn't find exactly what we wanted them to take. So we had to create a supplement that was like, this is what you take. Then people say, well, I don't want to take 8 or 10 pills. Okay. Like I don't want to take that. I'm not, and I'm the same way. So I'm like, well, what would you take? They're like, I'd take a couple pills. So I was like, okay. Liver Love has 16 different liver detox supplement ingredients all mixed into one pill.
Dang.
I mean, you talk about convenience. There's NAC, there's milk thistle, dim, turmeric, there's vitamin B9, there's resveratrol, there's quercetin. I mean, there's great ingredients. Each alone would be like, a $30, $40 bottle of just a supplement by itself. But the recipe for Liver Love makes your own glutathione.
Okay.
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 So you imagine this is where it gets really scientific. So let's say a woman comes in, says, I'm worried about my hormones. Well, did you know the liver regulates all your hormones? You want better hormones? Help your liver out. Take Liver Love. Okay. The guy comes in and says, I want a higher natural production of testosterone. And I got the man boobs and I got the beer belly. I say, well, yeah, if you dump out the estrogen with the liver dump, it raises your testosterone naturally. Okay. So then if I say, okay, what else could Liver Love be used for? Well, if Liver Love is the recipe to make antioxidants like glutathione, What does it do for your inflammation? What does it do for your autoimmune issues? What does it do for your digestive tract, right? It helps it. One of the most common issues that people have is digestive issues. And one of the biggest quote unquote benefits of taking liver love is they poop more.
Yeah.
They're like, whoa, am I doing something wrong? I'm pooping more. It's like usually in the first couple of weeks. I'm like, well, what's wrong? Does it look different? Are you going more? They're like, yeah, it looks real different. And I don't know. I'm going like 4 times a day now. And I'm like, well, how much were you going before? They're like once or twice every other day.
Hold on, Nurse Doza. Before we continue, I just want to say there are so many freaking supplements out there, and finding something that's truly effective and someone who cares enough to take all of the research and pack it into one. I mean, that's freaking amazing. And your supplements really, you put so much care and personalization into them. And the fact that it's not just, patching it up, but you're building up all these antioxidants and really supporting this key organ in your body, that's what we need more of. So
Thank
let's
you.
continue with these ingredients and more pooping because we need them more.
Yeah, more pooping. Thank you for saying that, Jack. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, man.
So the liver love, let's go really scientific here. All right.
Okay, run it.
For people who want to research and be geeks, there's a gene called the MTHFR gene.
Yes.
And you might have heard of it. Jack, you probably studied a little bit. For people out there who have heard of it, who haven't, it's an enzyme, basically a gene that you have in your liver that helps you make glutathione. And
Hey,
the
what about the NRF2 gene before we continue? What does that do?
so the NRF2 gene is another pathway for antioxidant production.
Okay.
You can make lots of different antioxidants in the body, but there's mainly like 4 pathways, 4 systems.
Yeah.
Glutathione production is one of them. Your NRF, I think NRF2 or whatever, the NRF2, that one is usually with the SOD, I believe, or the catalase is also
Okay,
one of
I
them.
see.
So like you have SOD, you have catalase, you have glutathione production, you even have melatonin production. So all those are like the biggest ones that you're going to make. You even have like CoQ10, albumin, uric acid or antioxidants, NAC, taurine, ketones, like all these things. So what you do is you take amino acids, you take B vitamins, and you funnel through the systems, and genetically they kick out antioxidants.
Right.
So with the MTHFR gene, it really needs methylated B vitamins like B9 and B12 and B6 in order to make glutathione. And if everyone's liver sucks and genetically MTHFR genes are abundant, like being mutated, they don't genetically have a good chance of making a healthy life for themselves. So liver love directly supports the MTHFR gene and its ability to make things like glutathione. The bliss you're taking does the same exact thing, except it does one other thing. The bliss is a mood booster. What we have found is that the liver and the MTHFR gene have a direct connection to serotonin and dopamine production. So when you take bliss, it not only supports your liver, it supports the production of serotonin, dopamine, and melatonin. So I was going to ask you, what part of the time of the day do you take your bliss?
Oh man, whenever I'm feeling like I'm really cranking it and my neurotransmitters almost need a boost. If I'm doing caffeine and music and all this, I'm like, I need a bliss, otherwise I'm gonna feel like shit the remainder of the day. My question is, can I do bliss at night?
Yes, yes, and
Okay,
yes.
cool. Because
Yes.
you're saying it just builds it, right?
So yes. Now take it a step further. So that bliss, and for the people following at home, bliss is a sublingual vitamin, which
Yeah,
means it's a powder you put under your tongue and you hold it for about 20 seconds and then you swallow it. It doesn't dissolve, but
already in your
that's
mouth.
how it's activated. You could give bliss to 10 different people and they would each have 10 different reactions. Some people might say, yeah, I poop more because, it helps support my liver. Other people come back within 5 minutes and say, what was that? My eyes and vision just got better. The lights came on. What was that? And I'm like, oh, you need a lot of serotonin dopamine. So
Wow.
when you take in the afternoon, you're getting a serotonin dopamine kick instead of coffee. And that's what you get activated with. If you take it at night before you go to bed, it's going to make melatonin for you.
Really?
Yes, because serotonin converts to melatonin at
Right.
night. But the problem is, if you don't have enough serotonin in the morning, you're not going to convert to melatonin at night. And guess what converts to serotonin and melatonin? SAMe. Same
No.
if I'm in the bliss.
No, it's almost like an adaptogen. I
It's
mean,
exactly what it is. But here's the beautiful thing. Adaptogens like resveratrol, turmeric, cordyceps, lion's mane,
right.
your body is not deficient in lion's mane, right? But your body could be deficient in the SAMe, and that's why you're not making the serotonin, dopamine, or the melatonin, right? So then I'm saying biochemically, the ingredients in bliss, the ingredients in liver love, that's what your body needs in order to function better. And when people don't have the right ingredients, you don't function better. Period.
Yeah, absolutely. Oh my gosh. Good Lord. We we are getting somewhere. We're building out this blueprint. We're building out food. Start with the food. Why is the liver so important? It controls so much, as we've learned: brain health, losing weight, our neurotransmitters, our hormones, cholesterol, which is not the devil if you look into the details. The way you eat and buy foods that come from the farm versus you know, the grocery store with the fake cows and God knows what else. And the way this controls just how you feel on a daily basis, right? And if you do all the cold plunges in the world and drink all the olive oil, but you're still feeling like shit, maybe we need to look into the liver. And I'm so glad we've uncovered that, you know? Um,
Yep.
and now we got these nutraceuticals for it, which I'm wondering, so let's say we started cutting out the processed foods, because we can't just take this supplement, let's say, and end all be all, right?
Sure. Sure.
Okay, we're doing that. Do we have to like fast for it? Like, how do we take liver love? Do we have to fast for it, or
Ah,
how do we do it?
that's a great question.
Because I want to do it.
You want to do it? Okay. So
I would
this
like
is
to
how
do
you,
it. Yeah.
let me ask you this goal, Jack. What is your goal with doing a liver detox protocol?
Just feel more energy throughout the day. Stop feeling
Okay.
less sluggish at 11 a.m., which makes
Okay.
no sense when my sleep is good, food's good, everything's good, right?
Okay. Yeah, that is true. And I think we can address it this way. So you also said you were taking bliss, right?
Occasionally, yes.
Okay. 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 So this is how we do it. So imagine that the way that you reset your sluggish feeling is you have to reset your circadian rhythm.
Okay.
Okay. So your circadian rhythm, which we've heard of, it's a 24-hour cycle. Some people say it's a 36-hour cycle. And it is essentially night and day. And based off of night and day, your body will function based off whether it's nighttime or daytime. When it's daytime, you make cortisol and dopamine. When it's nighttime, you make melatonin, right? So, like, it's a big difference, right? So, whenever you reset your body to adapt to your environment, that's really what the key to health is that you're a product and reflection of your community and your surroundings. So, the first thing I would say is how do you incorporate, a liver detox protocol? I say who is the community that's going to support you in your liver detox protocol, right? So Jack says, well, I'm going to do it myself. I'm like, yes, you can. But what if someone didn't have the same motivation you did,
Right.
right? Like, so you say, okay, well, first find support, whether you have to do it yourself or find a gym or find a church, find a yoga studio, find a best friend, whatever, right? And then what you decide next is you say, I'm going to only eat real food when I'm hungry, right? That's diet. Whatever food you want to eat real food when you're hungry.
I'm sorry we
Be-
overlooked that topic because it's so crazy. People eat when the time is right, but they don't realize, like, we made it so good in last podcast. We were talking about that dopamine resistance, and people
Ah,
just eat to feel good and the fucking cheese. And it's like,
yep.
man, once we got on this podcast, I was thinking, okay, I'm not full, but dinner's coming up. And I'm like, wait, I'm not even hungry. Sorry, I'm not even
Yeah.
hungry, right? And now I'm just like, man, let's let the channels flow.
Let's be honest here. This is maybe going to be triggering for people, but let's talk about it. Happy people are not hungry.
Okay,
Let's period. So let's go through the science. Um, if you're happy, you have high amounts of dopamine and serotonin. All right.
true.
If you ever talk to someone that has high amounts of serotonin and dopamine, you can't get them to sit down. Right? They're in a whole other land. They're floating all over the place and blah blah blah. Well,
Right.
imagine they're not hungry. They're not thinking about food.
No.
They don't need food, right? They're like, why would I eat? I can't even eat. I've been taking Adderall my whole life. I don't have an appetite, right? And I'm like, yes, okay, that's what happens with too much dopamine and serotonin. Now imagine your serotonin dopamine drop, like crash to the ground.
Yeah.
What do people do? They go running to get more dopamine and serotonin. What gives us more serotonin and dopamine? Chocolate, sugar, salt,
Porn.
alcohol, sex, porn, whatever you imagine, right?
Yeah.
So what happens is you get a little spike of dopamine, you get an energy fix, right? That's maybe what happens at 10 a.m., 11 a.m., 2 p.m. for people. And then they're like, and then I got to go through the rest of the day. You realize that you're crashing at 2 to 1 p.m. is either a sugar crash, a dopamine crash, or a serotonin crash. And you say, I need more serotonin dopamine. So you don't go reach for coffee, you reach for bliss and you say, dun da da da, here's my serotonin dopamine, and boom, I can finish my day.
Interesting.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now go back to the breakfast. When people wake up, their blood sugar's low because they've been fasting all night. When sunlight hits the brain produces cortisol, okay, to get your body moving. Cortisol is a stress hormone. You make lots of it when you're awake. But cortisol's main job is to increase blood sugar in the body. So when you wake up in the morning, you've been fasting, cortisol is released, your blood sugar goes up. You're not hungry. You don't need to eat. But what happens is people say, well, it's breakfast. I'm going to eat. It raises their blood sugar even more, which then follows with a sugar crash because the insulin spike leads to a sugar crash. And then it's 10 a.m. and they're like, I'm tired again. I'm hungry. I'm hangry. I'm crashing. I'm like, dude, control your blood sugar and your dopamine better. Get it from healthier sources, and you won't ever be hungry again. Because when you skip lunch because you were too stressed from a bunch of things you had to do, you look up and you're like, man, I missed lunch. I'm not even hungry. But somehow you didn't crash. You didn't crash. You didn't get hangry unless your blood sugar is out of control. And guess what? You'll notice when you say, I have to eat something. This is what happens with fasting. This is what happens with intermittent fasting. So imagine, to help the liver, I said fast, right? This is how you do it. You don't eat for 24 hours.
Okay.
That's how you help the liver out. Most people have more than enough reserves.
Oh, that's
They're
it.
not,
Okay.
yeah, that's it. Like, you just don't eat, right? You drink a bunch of water and you don't eat.
What about
And you
anything
say,
else?
oh,
Tea, coffee?
nope.
Just water.
You
Okay.
got one cup of black coffee if you want, or 1 cup of green tea, but you don't want to stimulate caloric intake into the body, because what we're trying to do is pull things out of the liver so it can finally breathe, right? Imagine it's a storage unit and you've stored way too much sodas and coffee in there and cookies, and you're like, all right, I don't eat for 24 hours. So what do? If your liver is healthy enough and you take things like liver love or bliss, now you're going to poop and digest and process all the crap out of your liver that doesn't belong there. And now you're not as bloated. You're not as being held down by inflammation and toxins. And because your dopamine, your serotonin's elevated throughout the day due to vitamins like bliss, you're like, do I even need to eat? And that's
Interesting.
why I say people who are happy have high amounts of dopamine. They don't have an appetite. They don't need to eat.
Do you ever eat?
Yeah, I ate today at lunch because I was hungry.
Okay.
I try to fast till about 6 p.m. to 7 p.m.
Until
And
then. Okay.
until then, now the reason, but here's the thing: in the morning, I take supplements to control my blood sugar.
What do you take?
So I take like resveratrol and green tea in the morning because I know my blood sugar is going to spike. I'm already kind of genetically pre-diabetic, and I still love chocolate. So I'm like, crap, if I ate some cookies or brownies the night before I went to bed, I will have a sugar crash in the morning when I wake up.
That's insane. So what you eat before is going to impact how you feel the next day. And that
Yes.
I just connected the dots. The cortisol increasing in the morning from the circadian rhythm is
Yep.
increasing that blood sugar, which then, oh my, I mean, it's all connecting and it's going straight to
Yep.
your brain. It's going straight to your body. Man. Okay. So you controlled it by drinking green tea or by taking,
I take a supplement.
EGCG? Okay.
Yeah, I take that EGCG.
Okay.
Beautiful. So
Cool.
I'm a supplement guy. I'm a vitamin head, and I've learned, should I just drink a bunch of green tea or just take the supplement? Just take the supplement. I mean,
Okay.
that's how I look at it. So I take green tea in the morning. I take resveratrol, which is great for longevity, and I also take like a cinnamon alpha lipoic acid mix.
Okay,
So
cool.
if
Major
you're
blood
not
sugar.
right, exactly. So if you're not pre-diabetic like me and you take this stuff in the morning, it promotes insulin sensitivity and promotes things like autophagy and mitochondrial biogenesis and rejuvenation, which you know this now. Let's talk a little longevity. So let's say you're one of the people who doesn't have a fatty liver. You have a optimal liver. Well, even fatty livers can turn optimal with the right help, but when you're optimal and you have optimal liver, man, You can fast for 5 days, like I did, and feel incredible afterwards. And I'll have the labs to show you. I did labs before and after a 6 day water fast.
6 days.
I
Wow.
did it 6 days. I did
That's
it to help with my insulin because I kept trying every supplement. I tried every diet. I was like, I cannot get my insulin under control.
Oh, you
I
checked it in a lab? Okay.
Yeah. So I did the 6 day water fast, checked my labs again, much better. Check my labs again 6 months down the road, still good. And I'm like, wow, I reset my metabolism. And I learned, I said, I do better when I don't eat. I have better clarity. I have better energy. Oh my gosh, I get all my nutrients from my supplements. Do I even need to eat food? And so I look at food very differently. It's sustenance. So if I eat something, I have to say, is this going to spike my sugar? Because pancakes do that now. Like sugary stuff spikes my sugar because I've controlled it so well. So if I go and eat a pancake with a bunch of syrup on it, I will start sweating, and 20 minutes later, I will have a sugar crash and fall asleep on the couch.
Wow.
I can't. That's why I don't eat during the day because if I eat anything during the day now, including just even like, something very light, it cannot slow me down because I'm running off adrenaline, dopamine, cortisol, right? I'm controlling my insulin. And all of a sudden I eat something, it throws it all off at lunchtime. So I'm like, I better just not eat because it's going to slow me down.
So you're eating once.
I try to eat once a day.
Okay,
And,
and
and I go ahead.
I was gonna say with the pancakes, like you said, you're gonna fall asleep 20 minutes later. I was thinking like, man, what are we being so healthy for if a little pancake's gonna throw us off that hard? You know, is it making us that sensitive, or is it that's sensitive, right? When you
Yes, yes,
okay, so
yes.
insulin sensitive. That's what we want.
We want to be that, but you're that sensitive. That's correct. So imagine you've seen the glucose readers, right? And we might have
Yes,
talked about this last time. So the glucose readers that everyone wears to check their blood sugar, this guy told me the other day that his goes up really high with watermelon.
interesting.
And it was funny because he's like, it goes up 40 points every time I eat watermelon. He goes, that's really high for me. I'm like, "Psh, I wonder what mine is when I eat a brownie, right? It
Right.
has to be up to 80 points, right? So that means in one bite for watermelon, it can spike your blood sugar 40 points. Meaning, like if your sugar's at 80 or 90, you're going to go up to 130 or 140 within 30 minutes of eating. Now
Okay.
imagine it's not watermelon, it's a brownie. Maybe that goes up 100 points. So you go from 80 points to 180 that quickly within 30 minutes. What's your body going to do? It's going to lower the blood sugar, which means you're about to have a insulin spike and a sugar crash. And
Right.
that's what I've done to myself now. But here's the fascinating thing, Jack. When I was pre-diabetic and 45 pounds overweight 20 years ago, I would eat the same pancake, fall asleep, or be tired and just think I was just tired. That's what happens.
But now you have the ability to have that blood sugar and put it into the cells and I guess absorb it, right? And your body does a better job. And I was thinking, you eat the food and let's say you're unhealthy and your blood sugar spikes and you're insulin resistant, so you have no way to put it into your body necessarily, and it just floats around in your bloodstream. And for some reason, all of it is tying back to the liver.
Yes,
It seems like all
because
of it's tying back.
it is because the liver is going to store the excess sugar. Put it this way, sugar is a form of gasoline, like carbohydrates, right? You can only really store it in like four places: the liver, your fat cells, your muscles, and your brain. If you have inflammatory sugar in your bloodstream that's high, that has no more place in the liver to be stored, your body says, all right, the next time you eat a brownie, we're going to store it in your fat cells. And the next time after that, when there's no more room, we're going to put it in your brain.
Shit.
I mean, that's really because the muscles will take sugar and burn it off when you're exercising. Hence why you've always been told as an athlete, carb load, you're going to provide yourself with energy. Like I said before, your body makes its own source of energy, regardless of whether you eat or not. Examples, breakfast. So you imagine the athlete that runs a marathon does not need to consume 2,000 calories of bread before they eat. If anything, that's going to be more detrimental because they're going to have an insulin spike and a sugar crash in the middle of the race.
The new research on ketone fueled runners is absolutely phenomenal.
What is it saying?
I mean, it's just saying if athletes who are fat adapted or who are able to take fat and basically use it as their primary fuel source versus the athlete, let's say, who eats 2,000 calories worth of pasta beforehand, they have much better mitochondrial, you know, how am I going to say this? Their
Mitochondrial health. Mitochondrial
mitochondrial
health.
health in general, right? but they're
Yeah.
also able to have more stamina when they do the race, and they don't get so fatigued so quick. And also their lactic acid that builds up. They're better at being able to regulate that. So they just
Yep.
become more of this endurance beast. And I don't know if that's good for every sport per se, but it's crazy. And then the fasting with the mitochondrial biogenesis, the mitophagy, and the
Yeah.
increased BDNF.
Yep.
I
Yes.
mean, we're helping all things here when we start with the liver and continue.
Right.
Um,
And I had to ask you this question because remember, you kind of looked at me crazy when I said the body does better in a fasted state. Think about everything you just said.
yeah.
And the truth is we don't ever get to a fasted state because we eat way too much. So the body never gets a chance to be in this beautiful state where the body can basically regenerate itself on its own if we just stay out of its own way.
How long does this take?
36 hours.
Okay.
36 hours. And what happens with autophagy is when you get to a fasted state of 36 hours to, 6 days at the most, you're in autophagy, which means you're burning ketones and your blood sugar's dropped. Because I have the labs to show it. My blood sugar went to like 56 and my cholesterol went to like 300 almost because I started going to liposis. I started pulling out fats for reserve, pulling out all the
Oh,
fat, and then my cholesterol went through the roof.
just
So
like a
that
detox.
bingo. But I started saying, I'm not running off of sugar. I'm running off of fat now. And here it is. Here's why. Here, I can show it.
That's
And I hadn't
crazy.
eaten. My cholesterol went high. I had not eaten anything in a week.
Oh, I see. I see. Okay.
So I just say, so back up. So the labs I did for the 6 day water fast, I did labs right before and right after. And so the labs right after the 6 day fast showed my elevated cholesterol and my depleted blood sugar, which meant I used all the blood sugar I could possibly find. And then when there's no more left, I didn't go running for reserves of sugar. I went running for reserves of fat and cholesterol, which explained why my cholesterol went up. I was in ketosis.
Oh, it's so beautiful.
It
This
was great. I
ketosis.
felt, and for the people who've never been in a healthy ketosis, not diabetic ketoacidosis, but a healthy ketosis, the feeling I had on day 5, I was the most tired and relaxed I've ever been in my life. However, I was clear-headed and focused.
Understood. It's been a
That's ketosis.
while. It's been a while since I felt like that, honestly. And what about ketones?
I like ketones.
Ketone
Now,
IQ, stuff like that.
we used to have a supplement that we would sell called ketones that we would mix in with the drinks. And it was great because I've seen people literally take ketones or even like coconut fat or an oil
Yeah.
and eat it to put themselves back into ketosis. And so instead of measuring blood sugar, they measure ketones because they want to be in ketosis all the time because that promotes fat burning, healthy metabolism, and healthy insulin regulation.
Mm, interesting. Some people say, the ketogenic diet. Um, some people say their hormones get messed up on it. How do you feel about that?
I believe it's because they don't address the liver. If you imagine you go on such a dramatic change from going like on a high carb diet, maybe to a half a Mediterranean diet, then you go to all fat, that's a lot on your liver. And
Yeah.
remember, if your liver is having to regulate all this new fat production and metabolism, it still has to regulate all your hormones. And that's the
It's
thing.
doing
If you're
so
like,
much.
that's what I'm saying. So it's like, I'm having to take care of all this other stuff. And now you want to do this to me. And I'm like, oh my God. So that's what I'm saying. Why not support your liver daily? Because it's doing 10 things at once.
Okay, back to that. Back
Yeah.
to that. The liver love. How do we do this? How do we take it?
Oh, yeah, yeah. Okay, well, you're asking. Okay, so for you to optimize, I would say go on an empty stomach, first thing in the morning, take 2 of them, okay? And then if you feel good, see how long that lasts throughout the day. You could take another 2 if you want to in the afternoon. However, 1 to 2 is a good support. 2 to 4 a day can be a heavy detox. That means you're cleaning out the systems, you're cleaning out the refrigerator, but you're not adding more to it. So be intentional, right? If people are seriously wanting to lose weight, reduce inflammation, and get their life in order, I say you do 2 to 4 pills of liver love a day, empty stomach or not, doesn't matter, but you're going to go through a detox and just be prepared to clean all that stuff out and then you'll be healthier. With you, you might have a bit of an uncomfortableness for a week or two. But like I said, try 2 pills a day on empty stomach, see what it does. Because once again, if you eat around the time you're doing it, now your liver loves having to digest the food rather than all the food you had eaten before.
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, man, but I do want to advise. I have never taken this, but I'm gonna say for anything that could help assist in detoxification, be careful. about 4 days ago, I decided to do a little parasite cleanse, and I swear this was one dose. The last time I took it, I did it super small, and I felt like ass because you're pulling out so much whatever. And I took this, man, and it consisted of tablets or capsules and liquid, and I drank it. And 3 hours later, I was at the Dallas Farmers Market just vomiting,
Oh,
projectile vomiting, because my body was like, bro, what on earth with all the clove and
yeah.
all the random
Yeah.
herbs? You know what I mean? Like, be
Yeah.
careful. But this liver love, it sounds like it's a gentle detox, no?
Yeah, it's not gonna be anything like that.
Okay.
Put it this way, I would not I mean, I don't wanna go through that, and like what you just said, and
No.
honestly, I don't want anyone else to go through that, and the thing is, it's a customer experience, right? So you're like, I don't want a bunch of people saying, "You know what I went through to have to detox," because that's what some people think it is. Now, keep in mind, if you're detoxing, you're removing things that are toxic from the body. So yes, it will be slightly uncomfortable while that's happening. Expected. I'm glad you clarified that. However, I'm all about convenience, man. If you're going to take one or two of the liver love and not have to go through all that and still get the benefits, that's the way to go.
I got you. Lastly, I love this. Food first, support the liver on a daily basis. Are there any other things we can do to really support that liver? Some of your favorites?
Um,
Like a
one of my
sauna or
so I like sauna. The sauna indirectly helps the liver. I'll tell you this right now. Everyone's a big fan of cold plunges, and I am too. But I really like sauna because when you're in the sauna, you can activate your nervous system to be very calm. That naturally allows the liver to work on its healthier detoxification pathways, right? So if my body's relaxed, I'm in the sauna, I'm sweating out toxins, I'm
you do
detoxing,
the chakra
yeah,
stuff.
yeah. So then all of a sudden now I'm thinking like I'm adding to the detox process. So for example, I go with every day as in I have to detox because I'm going to be surrounded by stress and toxins, which means my liver has to be on point no matter what I do. So I'm always supporting it, whether it's supplementation, sauna, healthy food, healthy fat, even healthy people. So, for example, you mentioned that HSCRP, it's a liver marker. I have a study that shows it can be elevated in people who rent their home versus own their home. So
Wow,
be careful about your negative thoughts and the people you surround yourself with because it can directly affect the health of your liver.
that's crazy. That's I mean, that seems like the final step in the puzzle, getting to understand the way people impact you and how stress can stop all the good flowing,
Yep.
right? It
Yep.
really does. And man, we covered a lot, dude.
We did.
That was
This is
awesome.
good, man. This is good. I figured if anyone watched the first episode, I figured the first episode is the starting point for this right now, right?
Yeah,
Because think about it, this was advanced, right? We put a focus on like, all right, we're going to deep dive and get into the weeds with the supplements and why we covered a lot.
yeah,
But that first episode, if anyone's listening, I want you to go back and listen because I love that episode you and I had
I do too.
because we talked about behavior change.
Right.
Right? Like, you imagine if you don't have the want to have a healthier life or a healthier liver or wanna feel better, then there's no point of listening to this episode, right, about the liver. Because like, "Yeah, that couldn't be me," or "I don't want that." And like, all right, back up to that first episode. The episode that we first did was about, do you know what it's like to feel good? So I have to imagine if you don't know, then you have a fatty liver. I'm sorry. And so if you don't want to work on it yet, that's fine. We'll be ready for you with this second episode, but just please listen to the first one and get some energy going so you'll be ready for this one.
Oh man, you're the man, there's Doza. To wrap
Thanks,
it
Jack.
up, the liver is life.
Yes.
Avoid the BS food. Start supporting this thing on a daily basis. Get away from the BS. Start taking boosting supplements that are created with love. I mean, Jonathan, that's it, man. And I'm so glad you could be able to come on and teach people this, teach me this. I'm definitely gonna start taking liver love. Bliss has helped me tenfold. And the glutathione and the NEC, and I mean, we have a solution to the problems at hand. And thank you. Thank you, man. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. I want to commend you again for having me on. You're helping a lot of people, Jack,
Thank you, gentlemen.
because what we covered was complex.
Yeah.
I mean, this it was a medical school, class almost, and you imagine you say, but health is not found in medicine because medicine is not health. We know this, right? If you took medicine, everyone would be healthy, but everyone's on medication, not getting healthier. So you say, what is it that people really need? They need support, like a podcast like this. So when you say, hey, man, there's a lot of people who listen and watched it, I'm going to say, but did they understand what we talked about? Because you and I stayed up late, rearranged our schedule to basically make this happen because we knew how many people it was going to help. And that's why I said, at any given time, Jack, you got me, man. Anytime
That's
you need
beautiful,
me,
bro.
I'm here to help. And you know that I can count on you too. So,
Yeah,
yeah.
100%. And we
Yeah.
are going to make a series out of this. I just got to freaking put numbers on the podcast episode, like 1, 2.
Yeah, I know
Big
what you
series for sure.
mean.
So, anyways, we're going to post everywhere you can find Nurse Doza. You're in Bee Cave, Austin. You got a whole, what's it called? A whole practice there, a whole place you can go and try out all these supplements and do an IV. And they got cool gadgets you can put on your head, like a brain tap, and
Yes.
wonk out on some sofa, couch bag, whatever, man.
Yeah, that's
Thank you
right.
so much once again. Amazing episode. Until next time, right?
Thanks, Jack. I
All
look
right.
forward to it.
Thanks, boss. See ya. Thank you for listening once again to the Cool Health Podcast. I hope you found some meaning out of this episode. Share this with your friends, like and subscribe for more. Thank you once again.